The moment she said those words, the room felt too quiet, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Outside, the day was still bright, sunlight pouring through the tall windows, but inside, something heavy settled in my chest. I had come over thinking I would leave before sunset, thinking I would keep my life neatly contained the way I always did. But nothing about that afternoon stayed neat. Nothing stayed simple. One sentence, offered without drama, cracked open a past I had spent years trying to seal shut, and suddenly I was standing at the edge of a decision that felt far bigger than staying the night. It felt like choosing whether I would keep running from my life or finally stop. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories where broken people slowly find their way back to themselves, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who might need hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Chronicles. Your support keeps stories like this alive. My name is Rowan Hale, and for most of my adult life, I mastered the art of temporary living. I rented rooms instead of apartments, worked jobs that never asked about my future, and kept my suitcase half-packed even when I had nowhere to go. I told myself it was freedom, but deep down, I knew it was fear. Fear of getting attached. Fear of being needed. Fear of failing again the way I had when my life fell apart years ago. That fear followed me everywhere, like a shadow that only grew longer in the daylight. I met her, Althea Monroe, on an ordinary morning that felt unimportant at the time. It was one of those clear, bright days where the sky looked freshly washed, and the city moved at a slower, kinder pace. I had taken a temporary job restoring old community buildings, the kind of work that paid little but gave my hands something honest to do. Althea was overseeing the renovation of a small neighborhood library, a project she had taken on after leaving a corporate career that burned her out. She wasn't loud or dramatic. She carried herself with a calm steadiness that made people listen when she spoke. From the first day, there was something about her presence that made the space feel safer, like the building itself trusted her. Our connection grew quietly, without fireworks. We talked during lunch breaks, sitting outside on the front steps of the library, the sun warming the concrete beneath us. She spoke about books, about how stories could rescue people without them even realizing it. I spoke about places I had lived, never staying long enough to belong. She listened without judgment, and that alone felt unfamiliar. I wasn't used to being seen without being measured. As weeks passed, the library began to transform, peeling paint replaced by fresh color, broken shelves repaired, windows cleaned until they reflected the sky like mirrors. Something in me shifted too, though I pretended not to notice. I started arriving earlier, leaving later. I memorized the way Althea tucked her hair behind her ear when she concentrated, the way her eyes softened when she laughed at something small. Still, I kept my distance emotionally, reminding myself that temporary things were safer. The day everything changed began like any other. The sun was high, the air warm but gentle, and the library buzzed with volunteers. By late afternoon, everyone else had left, and we stayed behind to finish organizing donated books. Time slipped by unnoticed. When we finally stepped outside, the light had turned golden white, the kind of brightness that makes even tired buildings look hopeful. I mentioned, casually, that I would head back to the room I was renting across town. That was when she asked if I wanted to stay. She said it simply, without expectation, but the meaning sank deep. Staying meant letting myself be comfortable somewhere. It meant accepting hospitality without planning an escape. It meant confronting the part of me that always chose the sofa, always chose the exit, always chose not to stay. My instinct was to deflect with humor, to say I wasn't sleeping on the sofa, as if that settled everything. But the truth was, I wasn't afraid of discomfort. I was afraid of belonging. Althea didn't push. She suggested we make dinner, since it was still early, since the day hadn't ended yet. Her home was modest and filled with light, windows open to let the afternoon breeze wander through. Plants lined the sills, books stacked in thoughtful chaos. There was evidence of a life lived intentionally, not perfectly, but honestly. As we cooked together, the normality of it all unsettled me more than any argument could have. This was the kind of moment people built lives from, and I had spent years avoiding exactly this. Over dinner, without forcing the conversation, she spoke about her past. About walking away from a job that drained her spirit. About learning that stability didn't mean stagnation, and that rest wasn't weakness. Her words stirred something painful in me. I thought about the night years ago when I lost everything I thought defined me, when one mistake cost me my career, my relationship, and my confidence. Since then, I had treated life like a series of waiting rooms, never unpacking, never settling. As daylight softened into evening, the question of staying hovered between us. She didn't repeat it. She didn't need to. The real battle was inside me. I walked through her apartment, noticing small details: a chipped mug she still used, a framed photo of her parents smiling in a sunlit park. These were anchors, proof that she allowed herself roots. I realized how tired I was of drifting. When night finally came, it wasn't dramatic. No storm, no sudden revelation. Just a quiet understanding that running had never protected me the way I thought it had. Staying didn't mean I was trapped. It meant I was choosing something, even if that something scared me. The next morning, sunlight filled the room early. For the first time in years, I woke without the familiar urge to leave before being seen. Althea was already up, making coffee, humming softly. The normalcy of it struck me hard. This was what I had denied myself for so long, not because I didn't deserve it, but because I was afraid to believe I did. Over the following days, nothing magical happened, yet everything felt different. I didn't move in overnight. I didn't promise forever. But I stopped pretending that closeness was a threat. I stayed more often. I started talking about my past honestly, about the shame I carried and the fear that still lingered. Althea listened, not to fix me, but to understand me. That made all the difference. The library reopened a few weeks later, bright and welcoming, filled with families and children and stories waiting to be discovered. Watching people walk through those doors, I felt a quiet pride, not just in the work we had done, but in the person I was becoming. I took on a longer-term role with the restoration team. I signed a lease. Small things, maybe, but monumental for someone who had spent years avoiding commitment. What I learned, slowly and sometimes painfully, was that kindness isn't always loud. Sometimes it's an invitation offered in the daylight, without pressure, without conditions. Sometimes it's allowing someone to stay, not because they have nowhere else to go, but because they deserve rest. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is accept that kindness without trying to earn it or run from it. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something special. Please comment below with the word stay if you believe that choosing to stay, even when it's scary, can change a life. Your comment helps this message reach others who might need it today. As I stand now, months later, watching the sunlight spill across a room that finally feels like home, I understand that my life didn't change because someone saved me. It changed because someone believed I was worth staying for, and because I finally believed it too. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of a moment when kindness or courage changed your path, please like, share, and comment to let us know. Your engagement helps stories of hope continue to be told here on Kindness Journal, where second chances are always welcome.